we're the middleman there that
What's going on
says
on
who
LinkedIn?
should get what and by what amount, right? And this journey, when I look at it, it started 4 years
The
ago.
refresh.
Initially started by my sort of curiosity of data and how data can be used to sort of bring value and impact to Africa. So it was a bit of soul searching in the beginning, but it was very much enforced at the time I was in Cape Town doing my master's. And with that, that's when I really, really, really dug deep and got myself into building data projects for one, but also exploring how data, AI, and machine learning could be used to sort of help the informal sector. So that started with a credit risk project actually for one in Lesotho and the other one was in Cape Town. So for the Lesotho ones was building a credit risk algorithm for basically unsecured credit for merchants or famously known as spaza shops or kiosks in Southern Africa to be able to sell credit, actually sell airtime on credit. And the
I
other
think
second project was small groups of women to be able to facilitate credit. Yeah, so that's my history and background into the sector.
Thank you very much. Now it's to know. So, given that quite an experience, and I want you to kindly tell us and the audience as well, just provide an overview of how AI and machine learning are currently being applied in the fintech industry.
Okay. So I think I would categorize them into three areas without mentioning specifically what. So one is decision making. So faster decision making because the data is there. AI could make a decision that, let's say, human beings would take 2 to 3 hours or 3 to 5 business
it's like
days
now.
in literally
Imagine everything is
seconds.
live.
The second one, I would say personalized customer experiences. You can imagine having a million customers knocking at your door and having something that can manage them all at scale and at once. And I would say the third one, which is not pretty at the front, but very tedious for businesses, is operation efficiencies and compliance, right? I feel those are the three broad areas or major areas that AI and machine learning applies in the fintech space.
Yeah, I mean,
And basically now they help that in if it's payments, if it's banking, if it's insurance, but those are the core functionalities that AI and machine learning actually do. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So your submission actually gives rise to another question. You mentioned the areas of decision making, customer service, and compliance. So I would want to know what role does natural language processing play in improving customer service within the fintech sector?
Okay. So I think I can put an example for this.
step
Imagine
though.
you have a business, and that business you want to service a very big issue in fraud is the mobile money messaging scams. It's something very small, but people are trying to scam people to send them money to them, even though you had no sort of idea that you're going to send money to them, right? So it's a
Mhm.
very small problem. I mean, it's a very big problem, but an interesting problem that I think we need to take precedence to the email spam filters, right? So emails also went through the same journey of whereby there's a lot of phishing emails, there's a lot of fraudulent emails and scams that were happening in the late 90s and early 2000s that we formed the spam folder, right? Now, when it comes to finance and money moving in and out in Africa, you cannot avoid messaging and SMS being used as a tool, right? And does that mean we need to start having a spam folder on our messaging platforms. And how will that go about having it to reduce fraud, right? It's I've seen a lot of online talkings on how we should mitigate this, but I feel like it's an open conversation, and especially when it comes to mobile money, there's a lot that has to be done to sort of curb fraud, as you mentioned. Yeah.
Mm, thank you. So, with your experience, I would want you to share some insight with us. What are the most groundbreaking AI and machine learning innovations in the fintech space that you've observed recently?
Okay. So I think one thing that is very notable is most technologies that use AI and machine learning are not front facing, right? They power something at the back for it to enable a certain activity to happen, right? And one of the things that I would say has been on the rise over the last 7 to 8 years is doing microloans from your SIM card, basically from your mobile money, right? Mobile money was a groundbreaking invention back in 2000 and 2008. And then basically we're able to send and receive money based off your mobile phone number, right? But when you look at the stats, it says basically the credit card penetration in Africa is less than 5%, right? But I would like to think of it differently is the way the our journey towards credit cards credit cards is a bit different from the way the Western was, right? In a sense of whereby from my SIM card, I'm able to get a little bit of micro loans or a little bit of overdrafts on credit, right, from the telcos, right? But what enables that in the back end is the AI and machine learning algorithms that are able to credit risk me, right? So does that mean we have to change the term from a credit card, but for Africa is a credit SIM card? Or it's something that it's an open for discussion, or at least to be popularized, because I believe there is inventions for Africa that are working for Africa, but are not yet popularized as an African invention, right? So that's one thing I would say is one of the biggest innovations in fintech, at least what AI is powering, because I believe every month in the whole continent, there's more than $1 billion in loans that are dispersed to individuals on credit. Yeah.
Thank you. Let's touch briefly on the issue of predictive analytics. So, with your experience, tell us possible examples how predictive analytics powered by AI is being used to improve financial decision making.
Okay. I think that will still go back to the initial sort of discussion I just made with credit, right? But other than credit, I would go to understanding your customer. So basically, now I'm going to customer segmentation, right? So basically, how well do you know your customers, right? In the traditional sense, if I'm a bank, customers will be grouped based on how much money they transact in and out of their bank accounts. So you have your high value customer, and then you have all of the other brackets, right? Um, but that most of the times, banks end up having a very big problem answering problems as why are there a lot of dormant accounts, why are people not transacting, why is the money not staying within the bank, right? Now, with that, what AI comes in is you look at the problem differently as yes, one high value customer could be having a different relationship with the bank. So you check on how basically people relate to the bank, and that falls under different customer segments. So some customer segments would be they put money from cash and then they spend digitally. Some would be they only use the bank for a certain product loan. So even how you communicate to that person or your marketing communication to that person is more different to a Gen Z who just wants the bank, the card for something to look cool, or having a retiree who just wants to protect their savings, right? And for
Right.
now, the way marketing works is all of your customers will get the same message to everyone, right? Instead, you could tailor that based on your segment to build that relationship and trust between you and your customer.
Thank you very much. Now, the concepts of AI and machine learning and the recent innovations going on in the fintech space, they are all very interesting. However, there would always be the issue of ethical considerations for our actions and inactions in businesses. I would want you to throw some light. What are the biggest challenges that fintech companies face when they have to integrate AI and machine learning into their operations?
Okay. So I'll start. So there's two parts. So one is the ethical, and then the other one is integrating of the ethicality into your operations. Um, it's a tricky place when it comes to ethics and fairness and elimination of biasness. I would say the challenge comes is the available data used to train the AI and machine learning algorithms, right? Depending on the data, that's what the algorithms will put as an output. So the question takes a step back of looking at where do we find inclusive data before we feed them to the algorithms so that they can do the decision making that is not biased and fair. And the other challenge is biasness and fairness is also another tricky place because that is very subjective, right? And that's where I think my comments on the ethicality and biasness and fairness of things comes in, right? And the other part is integrating AI and machine learning into the operations. Is I normally tell people we are very much stuck up with the technologies and we forget to work with the people you're implementing your solution on, right? So that you can understand how to properly implement it, right? So if you want to implement, let's say, digital onboarding, right? So something that is coming up on the rise in onboarding of banking customers or MNO customers is fingerprint detection, and then they could check if these fingerprints are in line with Derek's national ID card, for example, right? And then with that, then they have identified me, then they can onboard me into, let's say, a bank or a telecommunication company as a customer. Maybe it could be even insurance, right? But that, as much as I say it, it's very easy for me to say like, oh, it's quick. You just uh, use your fingers and your camera, then it onboards it, right? But when you go to market and you start implementing it, that it's not me
Sleep
who
with your
built the
gun,
solution
everything coming to
who's going to be
Jesus. Oh,
implementing that.
sleep. I'm tired.
It's the people that now need to use the solution that you have built. So something very simple is the language from
Oh, shit.
Kiswahili for the case of Tanzania to English, right? So people maybe would be better to use the solution if it's in Swahili and not in English. And those are the small things that I feel as a techie person, we need to invest more time into understanding the dynamics of operationalizing a solution in the market.
Uh, Thank you. So I also want you to throw more light on ethical considerations. Now we've identified that the problems actually exist, but then we want to find out how do we actually address ethical concerns that are related to bias and fairness in AI-driven financial services.